Hello snowboarders of the internet, I am your host TC and today I will be reviewing the updated Union Ultra. If you're interested in this binding or any other binding that I mentioned in this video, make sure you're going down in that description and clicking those affiliate links. That way you don't have to go search in the internet yourself and hope that you get what you're looking for. I rode this binding at Copper Mountain where it started off as a firm day up top. It was pretty soft down low. As the day went on though, it just pretty much just got soft everywhere. Turned into mashed potatoes towards the bottom there, but somehow it stayed fast. I didn't have to worry about hitting a Velcro spot anywhere where it was gonna throw me forward and just completely stop my momentum. It was all good there, and it was just a beautiful day in general. Nice and warm, not a cloud in the sky. Really just couldn't hope for a better day. It was one of those days you definitely had to throw a bunch of sunscreen on, but I used my Ride Fuse boots and my Jones Strato snowboard. When we're talking binding adjustability on the Ultra, it's pretty standard. They didn't have to really throw in a bunch of extra stuff just because that's not what this binding is made for. So we'll get right into it, where if you need to center this binding, you will just release these screws and you can slide it forward or back depending on where you need to get that boot nice and centered over the board. When it comes to adjusting the straps here, the ankle strap is actually just on a double pin system. Nice and easy to adjust on the fly. Whatever you need, you can either just drive a screwdriver in there, pop it, or I recommend pulling from the center and you can just pop them with your thumbs and you'll be all good there. Just slide it back and forth, it'll move for you, no problem. When it comes down to the toe strap, you do have one pin and then a flip tab system. So just flip that all the way open and that way it won't be in the lock position anymore. You can unscrew it and just screw it back in, but they did put that extra pin in there so it wouldn't come undone. It just kind of is a little safety feature in case you lose this little guy there. But the last thing pretty much with it is the toe strap is on a push-pull system. So just push down, slide it back, and that way you can rock it on top of your toe or over your toe. You do get a little bit of customizable option there. And then you can actually center this binding, or you can actually make this binding a little bit customized where you have your stance, because it does have this mini disc. So just put that in, you can get that exact stance width that you're looking for. The straps were good before in my opinion, but now they're absolutely amazing. So they gave it a new updated strap, which is actually the same strap that the Falcor uses, and they just kind of use that trickle down to the Ultra, which I absolutely love. It's one of those straps that's just mind-blowing to me, where I can ratchet this thing down as tight as I could possibly get it and I still can't feel this strap. So it does have this stretchy material behind, and then it's going to have a harder exoskeleton on the outside. So what that's going to do is that exoskeleton is going to give you all of that performance when you're going heel toe and a little extra lateral hold as well. But this soft part is actually going to stretch, so instead of having a padded strap on it, it just gives it that padding feel without actually having all that extra material that can fray and just rip over time. So I love this thing. It does give a good amount of response to it, where before I thought that strap was lacking a little bit. But I mean, I get who this binding is for, so I understand why they had that one on. Now that this one has become an option, it is so much better in my opinion. And even the toe strap is better, where the first gen, or if you go back and watch my review of it that I did a couple of years ago, it's totally different now. Before they had a super low profile one with no mesh or webbing in there. Now it does have the webbing that actually has a really good stretch to it, and I actually really liked a lot, where you can rock it over the toe or on top. I put it over and it did just fine. It gripped my square toe box really well. And the one thing I will say is I didn't have any problems with this digging into my boot whatsoever. Even when I would just ratchet this thing down as tight as possible, I had zero issues with it. Overall, these straps are great in my opinion, especially when they're paired with this chassis and this Highback. The ratchets are totally fine on these bindings. They do pretty much everything you need them to. There's really no play whatsoever in them. So, I mean, the ankle one, totally standard. What's on all their higher end bindings. It works, you can get in and out nice and easy. You still have a release to grip really well on it, so no problems there. I also didn't have any problems with it wearing away at the ladders, so that fit really nice and seamlessly. The one thing I did have a problem with where when my boot is in here and I'm trying to get those last extra clicks in, I'm only getting like 1 click per pull. And I understand why they do that. It's so you don't absolutely just destroy the teeth on the backside here of the ladder, but it's just kind of annoying. It might take you a little fraction of a second to get in longer, but you know, overall, it's totally fine. It didn't bug me that much. That's my only gripe with it that I can actually just say and be like, it's kind of annoying, but you know, they do it on other bindings, so it's all good. It just takes you a fraction longer to get in. While I have you here, you might as well like, subscribe, click that bell, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss any of our scheduled programming. This Highback hasn't changed since the last time I've ridden, or pretty much since this binding has come out, so we don't really need to spend a lot of time on it, especially because you guys are already familiar with it, but we can go over it real quick, where you do have nice lateral play to this thing. It is definitely softer there, but heel to toe, it's nice and responsive. So even when you're trying to drive in on the inside of the board, since it sits a little bit higher there, you feel a little bit more response. It's nothing crazy like a carbon fiber Highback where you're getting all of that response instantly. There's still a little bit of a lag to it, but you can actually adjust where this sits. You can rotate this Highback, which I don't recommend because you don't have to with union bindings. They're designed so you don't, but you know, some people still like doing that, so you can. There also is no forward lean adjuster, so whatever you have at the forward lean now is just what you're gonna have. There's nothing you can do to change it. Don't drill into this Highback. You'll void all warranty, all that jazz. Just rock it the way it is. You don't need any more. When we talk overall flex on this binding, it's still gonna be soft. It's definitely softer than that middle of the road binding is for sure, but it does feel a little bit stiffer than the first time I rode it, just because they did put this new strap on it on the ankle and on the toe, and I feel like it gives it just enough rigidity to be able to really rip this thing all mountain. But overall, it still has a good flex underneath your foot. Since you do have that mini disc in there, it's gonna allow that board to flex nice and freely, and it's got so much foam underneath to really help dampen it, and then really just allow that board to flex without a hard breaking point on it, where you see on some bindings they have that sharp edge. You go to tail press or nose press on something and it just gives a nice snapping point. This binding doesn't have that at all. As I mentioned before, the Highback is still nice and soft, so that does flex quite a bit, but heel toe, there is a good response to it as well. The binding ride on this is so much better than when I rode it before, just because they soften up these pads underneath the feet. If you saw it before, you'll know that I absolutely hated how this thing felt under my feet because they had firmer foam footbeds underneath it. I felt those pressure points on my thinner profile boot there, so I was not a fan. It felt like an old school binding that I was like, man, what did you guys do with this thing? Now it's so much better. I didn't feel that whatsoever. I was able to just get on them, be like, okay, this feels like a standard like 21st century binding. This thing's awesome. But it was super comfortable compared to what it used to be, where I absolutely love this thing now. Like, the ride on it was awesome. I was able to go through that hard, chunky stuff up top in the morning and not feel all those vibrations coming through the board. I could hear my board going over it, but I couldn't really feel it quite as much. So it was awesome in that sense. Just a nice, comfortable ride now. Rider in mind. This binding is for a way bigger scope of rider now, where before it was just for that park rider that's just gonna butter around, jib, do all that sort of stuff. Now you can actually take this binding all mountain because of the new straps on it. It gives it a little bit more response, where you're not totally loosey-goosey when you're just pressing to the nose or to the tail of the board. Now you feel a little bit more locked in, can really get heel toe extremely fast and nice and responsive. So a little bit bigger of a scope of rider. I think you guys are gonna be pleasantly surprised. If you're looking for another way to get involved in the Angry Snowboarder community, head on over to Angry Snowboarder VIP. What is it, you might ask? Sure, I could explain it here, but we have a great video over there getting into it really in depth. I loved what they've done with this binding. It seems like they've taken all of my gripes from the previous generation and just fixed it in this one, where now it's just more complete binding in my opinion, where you can ride all mountain with it. It's not just solely like stuck with buttering and just hanging out in the park. You can take this thing everywhere. I love that they pretty much have done this, made it a little bit more damp, kind of softened up these footbeds underneath your feet just to give you a little bit extra cushioning. Really good job, guys. Like, this binding, I could easily ride this actually now and not have any worry in the world. Before, it would have been way too loose for me, but Honestly, the way it is now, like I could still ride this on my 59 Stratos and be able to control it, have zero issues out there. So hats off to you guys. It's awesome. I really like the new version of it. Comparable bindings: the Salomon District Pro, the Bataleon Blaster Asymmetrical Wrap, and the K2 Bond. As always guys, I've been your host TC, and this has been my review of the updated Union Ultra. If you don't believe me that I didn't like that one, the old version, quite as much, why don't you go and watch that video and just see how it compares.